If I had a crystal ball and I could look into this crystal ball and tell you guys exactly where your business opportunities lie looking forward, what is working in the future, what is not working in the future, things that we should totally eliminate, things that we should totally start doing in order to see your business grow and flourish. Imagine how amazing that would be. Guys, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have the next best thing. We've recently just launched our opportunity analysis, and the entire premise of this exercise is to help you guys understand where the holes in your bucket currently lie. Why is that important? Because we don't want to start filling a bucket that's leaking. Guys, for a limited time only, I'm going to be offering this as a free giveaway. It's $350, but for you site shedders, you're going to get it for free. You need to head across to tradie.wiki/grow and enter the code SITESHED to get it for nothing. Off the back of it, book a time to have a chat and we'll see where it takes us. We're looking forward to helping you and seeing where your opportunities lie. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
G'day guys, welcome back to the Site Shed podcast. My name is Matt Jones and today I am going to be talking to you about something that I've been spending a huge amount of time on recently, which is being able to equip and provide my team with the right frameworks for them to succeed within their roles. Now, I'll give you a bit of a backstory on this, but before I go too far into it, I want to say this is a bit of an overview into, I suppose, a methodology that has come from a number of books that I've read and a number of different, I suppose, frameworks that I've applied within our company's project management software, so on and so forth. So this is more of a general overview for you guys to get a bit of an understanding about what I have put together. I'm going to be doing some deep dive training into this within the Facebook community very soon. So if you are not part of that group, head across to Facebook and search The Site Shed and join the group, follow the page. And when you're in the group there, you'll see some of these trainings that are going to be up and coming. Now, okay, so taking it back into, I suppose, a bit of a why I've gone down this path over the last, in truth, 6 months. I've sort of been researching the hell out of this, and it's got to a point where, our digital agency, Tradie Web Guys, is growing very quickly, and we have some really great team members. But in truth, in a fast-growing business, we're always hiring. We've got 3 job applications out right now, and last year, I think I hired about 5 people, and 3 of them have left or been fired. Now, that is a result of bad hiring and bad practice. And although I'm a lot better at this than I was initially, I'm still not great at it. And so I thought, well, how am I going to go about improving this? And so I started reading a lot of books and I started doing a lot of research, and I realized that the bottleneck was that I just really wasn't equipping my team with specific enough actionable outcomes for them to be able to, achieve what I consider a success within their role. So instead of it being grey, I have been researching ways to make it black and white, essentially. And I really encourage you guys as well to take on board what I'm saying here. And if you want to get access to the training, then I encourage you to go and check out the training that I'll be launching within the Facebook community pretty soon. I have taken a lot of what I've learned here and I've applied it practically to templated approach which lives within our software, which every one of our team members has access to, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So the first thing is, right, and I'll start the ball rolling with the hiring recruitment frameworks that we all might be used to, okay, or the approach, I should say, that we all might be used to, which typically is if they can fog a mirror, we'll hire them. Now, I know this is quite relevant because I know within the trades all over the world, there's a constant cry for team members, and we poll a lot of companies from all around the world, and a lot of people come back and say, we'd be a huge organisation if only we could find the right team members. So the old way of going about this was, when you're posting job ads, you would post like roles and responsibilities of what people are doing and blah blah blah, which is great. But typically speaking, for the better part, this is not really what we're looking as business owners as a result. That's not the result we want. What we want from a result from a team member and from ourselves, and I should qualify this as well before I get started. The beginning of the year, I went on a mission to optimize the way I do everything. So everything from health and fitness through to business, through to personal life, like everything. I wanted to improve everything. Like, I don't know if you guys might have been familiar with Arnold Schwarzenegger's 1% methodology, where basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially he says, if you can apply a 1% improvement, to various areas of your life across the board, then the results are, it's not a multiplication, it's a compounding effect. So the point being, if you can make small improvements to the way you do things across every different area of your personal life and your business, then the results will be compounding. And that compounding factor could be, who knows, it could be within thousands. That's to be decided, right? But the point being, you got to get yourself in the right framework on wanting to improve these things. So it started with me because I knew that I needed to get better at doing this, okay? And so I set out about reading all these books and approaching different experts within these fields and so on and so forth that could help me get a better understanding of how I might want to better improve, the way that I am productive at work. And once I understood that, and once I had a framework built about it, I created this structure within our software, and then I set my team up with it. So once I knew that it worked, and once I was happy with it, then I rolled it out to the rest of the team, right? So it started with me, is basically what I'm saying. And then it sort of grew into this machine that is forever growing now within our organization, and the team are loving it. And it's really important as well because, as I said, we're hiring so many new staff members and we are hiring them the right way, which is not really what I want to talk about specifically, but within these trainings, we'll dive a little bit deeper on how you can go about that. So if you guys are listening to this, or it doesn't really matter, I'm not going to be screen sharing or showing anything practically within this podcast. This is more just to give you guys a bit of a general understanding, as I've already recapped on. So here we go. What we want as business owners is, we want people when they're coming into our organization, and people that are already in our organization, even more importantly. And in truth, that's where it will start. It will typically start with the people that are already in your organization. And what you want from those people, you may get frustrated very often with the fact that you feel like they're not as productive as they could be, or they're not working towards a common goal. And it's very often the case. And it's because you haven't given them specific measurable outcomes. Now, the difference is, right, if we say, let's take a sales target, right, or let's say you've got a salesperson in a position within your company. Now, as a business owner, we might think, right, we're going to create a 12-month goal for them. We want you to grow the business by $100,000 or $1 million or whatever it is, right? Okay. So that's great, but that doesn't help the salesperson as such with specific things they need to work on to help them get there. So, for example, you need to be bringing 20 new qualified prospects into our top of funnel sales funnel every single week. Like, that's a specific measurable outcome. And the difference between the two is, with the latter, it's a micro adjustment in order to make the improvement. Whereas if you leave it for, you need to make $1 million a year, and it comes to that 12-month review and you're like, oh, you only got to 300 grand. Like, it's too late. You can't make any changes. So it's taking like a big picture company goal, which might be related to turnover. It might be related to many other things. It might be related to hiring team members. It might be related to removing yourself from different parts of operations. But essentially, understanding what the bigger picture goal is you can then reverse engineer it and you can break it down into bite-sized chunks, which you can then assign to team members. So it's a big thing for us at the moment. Like we've been doing, as my coach says, a lot of navel gazing for the last 6 months. And it's true, we have been. And what that basically means is we've been working on structure and we've been working on ways that I can set the business up to scale that doesn't necessarily involve me anymore. So we're bringing people into the right places so they can take things off my plate. We're bringing other people into places where they can take things off other people's plates, so on and so forth. And so there's a whole ecosystem that happens here, but it all starts with understanding the framework and understanding the mindset behind these movements and behind these strategies. So the big thing for me was, how do I make sure that all of my team members and myself are working towards a common goal? So setting the goal is the easy part, because essentially you can sit down, you can strategize over this, and you can say, okay, well, based on last year, I want to increase the business by 50% or whatever it might be. Okay, cool. There's the goal. So then how do we break this down into bite-sized chunks? Okay, cool. Then let's reverse engineer this a little bit. We'll turn it down into monthly goals, bigger picture goals, or quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, daily tasks, so on and so forth. But the point being, how do we then make them accountable to that? So there's a theory, and I suppose it's a philosophy, if you want to call it that, or perhaps even they're the wrong words. I suppose it's more of a methodology, which has come from a number of books that I've read. And the books that I would encourage you go check out is a book by Dr. Jeff Smart, Geoff Smart, called Who, WHO. It's called A Method for Hiring. And the book refers to a principle which they call scorecards. Now, this has been a real game changer in our business. And if I'm honest, it's been one of the most refreshing revelations from the team members and from myself, because all of a sudden everyone's just like, oh my God, this is great. We have like clarity on what our goals are for the next 3 months. So it follows a bit of a cadence, and you might hear me refer quite often to certain meetings that we are holding at a certain cadence. And so, we've got this structure in place as well. And I've developed all of this as a part of, what I've been learning throughout these books. But, every 3 months we'll have like our quarterly flight plan meeting, which basically we sit down and we say, right, this is the goals for the company over the next 3 months. And now these are your individual goals in order to, move the company and move everyone closer towards that bigger picture goal. Now, here's the key, right? If you set this up right, which I've done, I don't like to, by any measure, think that I'm an expert at this. I've just read a bunch of books with people who are really smart people, and I've been able to kind of reverse engineer it and tailor it to suit our company, okay? So don't think that I'm trying to blow my own horn here or anything like that. This is not my idea. This has come from other people. I've just sort of engineered it in a way that best suits my companies. So the cool thing is I've been able to set it up in a way where the team members themselves tell me what their quarterly goals are. Now, that's really cool, because you guys would know this, no doubt know this. When you give somebody an instruction or you tell somebody to do something, it doesn't mean as much as when it comes from them. So when they can see the bigger picture and they can say, all right, this is what I do in the business and this is how I can contribute to that. This is what I'm going to do. It's a completely different dynamic, and it's one that works. And so essentially what we do is I send these guys their blank scorecards. My team members, they've got blank scorecards, and they put down what they want to achieve over the next 3 months. And what they're putting down is, sometimes they nail it, sometimes they don't. They're getting a lot better at it. After a few times of doing this now, they're getting better at it, but they're specific outcomes. And so if I look at like the marketing person, for example, like the specific outcome for her is, well, you need to be bringing in 20 new top of funnel leads into our sales pipeline every week. Like, it's specific and it's all tracked. And so every week we have like a leadership meeting and we sit down and we look at the numbers. And again, there's a cadence and there's a framework to all of these meetings. They all serve a purpose, but essentially in this meeting, it's only a short meeting, but we go through the numbers. We say, cool, where are you at this week? Okay, we're here. So we're not at our 20. Why not? What can we tweak to improve that? Do we need to increase our marketing budget? Do we need to increase our ad spend? Do we need to increase our outreach? Do we need to hire a new person? so on and so forth. And so these quarterly, we call them rocks, if you will, which ties into another book, which I'll get to in a minute. But, these quarterly rocks are not necessarily things that they must hit every time, but you want about a 70% success rate on these things. And the reason for that is if they're hitting them every single quarter, then the goals aren't big enough. And if they're not hitting them every quarter, then the goals are too big or they're unreasonable, or they're not the right person for the role, right? So you want to shoot for about a 70% success rate on these, and that's both individually and from the organization. And that keeps people hungry, and it keeps people striving, and it keeps people moving in the right direction in relation to, being proactive and being productive. So you never overcomplicate it. And with, over the course of a 3-month, period, the most outcomes that I would ever give anyone would be 4. And even 4 is a stretch. So, for example, last quarter, one of the outcomes that I had given to my technical support guy was I want to have a detailed customer survey system set up within the company. I want to have and I want that to be customer satisfaction survey, and I want it to be a net promoter score. Now, those might sound like jargon to you. Don't worry too much about it. But essentially, that was his quarterly goal. So he had to go find the software. He had to go find a way that we can deploy it and set it up as part of a systemized process. And that was like one of his 3-month projects, which got done. Okay. So every week when we have our meetings, we bring out our scorecards and we say, right, how are we trending on these? And the reason we do that is because we want to keep those major things front and center. Now, what we don't put in those scorecards is the small things, like you need to call Barry or you need to call Sally and follow up on a proposal, blah, blah, blah. It's not really what it's for. It's more for the bigger picture things. So it's not necessarily business as usual. It's more about, okay, well, what are the big picture things that we're working towards here, and what are we constantly checking off in order to make us progress closer, right? So that gives you a bit of an understanding. Now, where it gets really useful is in the recruitment stage, because like we're doing right now, we're recruiting for a number of positions, some of them on the development, some within marketing, some of them within customer support, so on and so forth. But we've got scorecards for all of those positions. Now, the scorecards talk about the measurable outcomes. They say, well, this is your outcome. And then there's a KPI attached to that. So the KPI is essentially the key performance indicator is, well, how do we track this? So, for example, I'm going back to, the deliverable for my marketing girl. You need to have 20 top of funnel leads coming in each week. So that is the outcome. But then the KPI is, well, how are we going to track this? And so the KPI is these will be reported in a Google document every week, and they are. And so that means for me, it's crystal clear. It's black or white. And for them, it's crystal clear and it's black and white because they either hit it or they don't. And so with this sort of framework in place, it makes it really easy for your team members to be moving in the right direction and making sure that they're working towards things that actually make a difference. Because what happens is, and if I do this all the time, and I still do it all the time, and now I've trained my team to pull me up when I do this, and they take me back to the scorecard, right? Because I'll do this all the time. I'm like, oh, I need this done. I need it done for next month. It's got to be finished. For example, I might need a web page built, or I might need something done. I'm like, guys, go and do this. It's got to be done for a promotion rate, blah, blah. They'll now turn around and they'll tell me, this doesn't fall into any of the company's scorecards or either my own. Let's shelve it for the next 3 months. And I'm like, damn it, that's so true. So sometimes things seem important and they pop up, but in reality, when you're drawing it back to the bigger picture, they're not actually super relevant. So I know you guys probably don't do that. It's probably just me, right? But the point being, you've got to try and equip your team with their best possible chance of success. And if you want to keep them happy and you want to keep them motivated, then the worst thing you can do is keep dumping shit on their plate when they can't get the stuff they need to get off their plate in the first place. So having specific outcomes for their position is so important because it just makes everyone's life so much easier and it's so much more transparent. Now, as I said, there's a couple of books I encourage you guys to go and check out. Now, the first one, as I said, is Who, A Method for Hiring by Dr. Jeff Smart. It's a really, really useful book which talks specifically about scorecards, and it talks about how you can hire people off scorecards. So go and read that book. It's really cool. The other book, which I know many of you guys have read, is a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. Now, Traction is a fantastic book about what they call the EOS framework, and they have a similar part of the book ties into the company's quarterly objectives, which they call ROCs, same sort of thing. Very, very useful for you to apply to your business. That book, in truth, is just gold. So I would encourage you all to go and check that out. It's Traction by Gino Wickman. Don't pull over and write it down if you're driving. All this stuff's going to be in the show notes with links to these books. You can go and click on the links. It'll take you straight to the Amazon link, page, and you can buy it through Amazon easy. So I suppose, though, like fundamentally, the biggest shift and the biggest paradigm for me was, well, I got to a point where the pain was real enough for me to take action. And for many of you guys, you might not be there yet. And that's okay. So you might listen to this podcast and say, that sounds like a nice to have, but not a need to have right now. And that's cool, because at some point you may want to come back to this. And that's kind of what happened to me as well. Like, to be honest, if I hadn't been looking at this, 12 months ago, I probably wouldn't have been in the right frame of mind that I am right now. And now that I am in this zone, I'm deep in this zone and I'm actually really enjoying it. And it's actually changed my entire position within the business. Like, I'm removing myself from everything else so I can focus down on these things, because I've realized that my strength is really in the structural side of facilitating my team's growth and building the team and hiring new team members and, coming up with, nice new projects and initiatives for clients and that kind of thing. And that's the bigger picture stuff that I wanted to focus on, which you can't do when you're bogged down with things like sales and customer support and all that kind of stuff. So understanding what those specific, quarterly outcomes are for yourself will help you then define the areas of your business in which you need to remove yourself so you can achieve your goals. And the same thing for your team members. And there is literally no one that comes into our organization, a contractor or a team member, that does not have a scorecard tied to their position. So that gives you some sort of indication as to how anal we are about this now as part of our process. And of course, this leads down a whole bunch of other frameworks which tie into our recruitment process that we have now, which I've been working with a coach on this, and we've been refining this. And it's a much more of a detailed and slower recruitment process, but the outcomes and the quality of the candidates that you get are a lot better. And so, and this is something that I've got wrong for so many years, and it's constant work in progress. And I'm finally starting to realize that some things you can't rush, and some things you need to apply process to in order to get the outcome that you want. We all have those situations where, some of us anyway, you have those those team members that just by luck, they just fell in our lap and they've been amazing. But, they're few and far between, especially as you start to scale, you start to grow, and you need to have some sort of process around that recruiting process within your organization. So anyway, I won't go too much further into this, because in truth, it's like a rabbit warren, and you can just keep going and going and going. But the things that I am going to cover off on in some specific training are going to be scorecards. And the other one that I'm going to talk to you guys about is a framework that we've set up within the organization and I've set it up for myself again to test that it works. And the reason that I did that was because I had a gap that I needed to fill in relation to productivity. And there were things that I was missing in terms of things I had to get done, things I wanted to get done, and I would forget things. And I put this little framework together. It lives in our project management system again, but I call it the GSD space, which stands for getting shit done or getting stuff done. But essentially, I've been able to equip my team members with this little framework as well. And it means that everyone's so much more productive now, and everyone has documented tasks and things they want to work on and things they know they have to work on coming up next. And so it's a really, really useful little tool that we've been able to develop, again, just to improve productivity within the organization and productivity for myself. So I'm going to be running a lot more training on these things for you guys over in the Facebook group, as I said. So I encourage you to get over there and check that out. So I suppose, in summary, the revelation and the message, I suppose, that I'd like to convey to you guys is, if you sit back with a cup of coffee and a notepad and you chill out for 10 minutes and you think, okay, well, where are the areas that I'm hemorrhaging at the moment? Like, what are the areas that I specifically need help? once you have understanding around that, and once you have clarity around that, it makes it really easy for you to go and source information and source help for those things. So, and they can come in the way of books. It could come in the way of podcasts. It could come in the way of like training programs. It could be coaches. It could be like whatever, right? But the point being, until you have a clear understanding of where those issues are, it's very hard for you to go and seek help. Now, the other thing is, and you guys know I'm a pretty big reader. And the reason I like to read is because it gives me perspective on things that I don't know about currently. And I've said it before a million times, you don't know what you don't know, which basically means there are things that you do know and there are things that you know that you should know, right? So, for example, one of your colleagues or one of your competitors or whatever, one of your friends, they might use a bit of software or something within their business, which is far better than what you're currently using. So these are things that you know exist, but you haven't implemented. And then there's things that you know exist and you have implemented. And then there's things that you don't know about at all. And so you can't possibly have implemented it. And these are the things that I encourage you guys to get perspective on. And I'm not saying you need to jump into these things and, take on everything. In fact, I would encourage you not to do that. I myself have many a times gone into, and only just recently in truth, I've just come off the back of reading some incredibly detailed books, which I have spent a lot of time extracting information from and applying to my businesses and to my life. But straight off the back of reading some books, I jumped into another book, which is an amazing book. And because I was I felt myself slipping into information paralysis, and I did not get as much out of that book as I should have. So even though I finished it, I'm definitely going to have to go back and read that book again, which is fine. Or maybe I'll listen to it when I'm training or something, right? But the point being, don't think that you have to be, and I encourage you to treat this kind of like a sprint, right? So if you need information on productivity, or if you need information on, what numbers you should be tracking or whatever it is, I would encourage you to treat it like a sprint. Go and find 3 or 4 books or whatever it might be, or go and find a coach who specifies in that sort of area and hit it. Go and attack it, hit it, and then take that information and take it away and apply it before you start the next thing. And like so often I've done this wrong. I've just gone from one thing to the next, and as a result, I haven't been able to apply what I've learned the way that I wanted to. But the point being, start at the top and understand, okay, well, this is where I'm having problems. I need to find help in these areas. And you can go and ask people. You can come and ask in the community, in the group. You can ask me, whatever it is, or you can put it out to your network. But like, the help exists, and the help does exist, but it just really depends. You've got to be really clear on, on asking those questions and making sure that people can steer you in the right direction and connect you with the right people or the right resources or whatever it is, right? So the other book I suppose I should have mentioned was this one called Measure What Matters. Again, this is a really awesome book. And I have as well, guys. I've started doing book reviews again, but I've done them in a way where it's actually all done in a Google Doc, and you can go and check it out. You can read through it. You can see the highlights, and you can do all this kind of stuff. I haven't actually finished that one yet, but there's a bunch of them I've started doing, and I've got to get in a bit better cadence for this. I'm kind of doing it at the moment a bit ad hoc, but I'm sort of scoring these books, and I'm letting you know what the key takeaways are and all this kind of stuff. So I'll keep an eye out for that. They'll all be going into the Facebook group, by the way. It's just an easy central place for me to drop information like this so you guys can get access to it. But yeah, you can keep an eye out for those things. So that's all I wanted to say today. I suppose like an action point for you guys looking forward, I would say go and do what I just mentioned. Go grab a coffee, turn your phone off, turn your iPad off, get out of your office so no one's going to be nagging you. Go sit down at a cafe with a notepad or whatever and figure out the top, like what's the main thing that is preventing you from reaching your goals right now within your business and maybe within your personal life. And as soon as you understand that, it's going to be like a breath of fresh air, because you'll be able to find people and you'll be able to find resources that are going to help you alleviate some of those problems, and it will be the best thing you've ever done. And more importantly, just that little action alone is more than likely going to force you to create a positive habit. And, there's a really good book called Atomic Habits by a guy called James Clear. And a lot of this whole, optimization thought process came from when I read that book, and I realized that I am in control of what I do, my actions and my habits. I just need to structure it in a way that it becomes more habitual, And so get out there and do that, guys. You can't go wrong. Keep an eye out. There's going to be some upcoming podcasts that are going to talk specifically to some sort of high-level business-related things for you guys, things that we see very often over at Trading Web, guys, things to do with marketing, things to do with websites, things to do with some sales strategy and some technology and that kind of stuff, which we're really going to start diving a bit deeper into for you guys, just to give you guys like practical places and practical tools that you can adopt straight away to help facilitate growth. So you can definitely keep an eye out for those. For any of you guys that do need or do want to have a conversation about anything to do with the digital landscape, whether it's websites or whether it's marketing related things, head across to tradingwebguys.com.au, fill in one of the forms, or wherever you see these come across social media or whatever, reach out to us on Facebook Messenger or whatever it is. Well, let's have a conversation, because we've got some amazing new SEO programs which we've customized specifically for trade businesses, and there's 3 different programs. So there's one for every single trade business in the world out there that we've dialed in. With this amazing new growing team which is delivering awesome results on these programs. It's really useful. So I just encourage you guys, if you do want to have that conversation, then head across to tradingwebguys.com.au, fill in one of the forms and let's have the chat. Okay. Or you can head to tradingwebguys.com.au/apply and go through the apply form. And that gives you the opportunity there to basically do a complete brain dump on all of your hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And we can help tailor some products and solutions for you to help you get to where you want to go. That's all from me, guys. I look forward to seeing you guys, the comments pop up in the Facebook group for this episode. And otherwise, if you have any questions, by all means, please let us know. And also, if you have any experiences with what we just discussed, I'd love to hear from you guys, what works, what doesn't work, or maybe if there's anything that you'd like to hear more about. So that's enough from me. We'll see you on the inside. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.